Shunyavadi Paschachadeshatadine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhya evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Vrindavana Jaya Vrindavan Bolo Bolo Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Vrindavana Jaya Vrindavan Bolo Bolo Radhe Jaya Krishna Shri Govinda Gopinata Madana Mohan Shri Govinda Gopinata Madana Mohan Shri Govinda Gopinata Madana Mohan Shri Govinda Gopinata Then by myself Vrindavana Jaya Vrindavan Everyone together, bolo Jaya Radhe Shamakunda, Radha Kunda, Giri Govardhan. Shamakunda, Radha Kunda, Giri Govardhan. Kalindi Jamuna Jaya Jaya Mahavan Kalindi Jamuna Jaya Jaya Mahavan Kalindi Jamuna Jaya Jaya Mahavan Jaya Mahavan Vrindavana Jaya Vrindavan Bolo Bolo Radhe Keshigata Vangsivata Dwadasha Kanan Keshi Vamsi Bata Dwadasha Kanan Keshigata Vamsi Bata Dwadasha Kanan Dwadasha Kanan Jaha Shabalila Koilo Shri Nanda Nandan Jaha Shabalila Koilo Shri Nanda Nandan Jaha Shabalila Koilo Shri Nanda Nandan Koilo Shri Nandan Vrindavana Jaya Vrindavan Bolo Bolo. Just keep going. Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Vrindavana Jaya Vrindavan Radhe Krishna Vrindavana Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Everyone all together, bolo. Hey! Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. One more time, bolo bolo. Hey, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sister, help me when I'm happy, okay? Help me when I'm happy.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, hey, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, keep going. Rama Rama, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Vrindavana, Jaya Vrindavan. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Vrindavan, Jaya Vrindavan. Shri Govinda Gopinata Madana Mohan, Shri Govinda Gopinata, Shri Govinda Gopinata Madana Mohan, Shri Govinda Gopinata Madana Mohan, Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan, Shama Kunda, Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Vrindavana, Jaya. So sweet. One more time, please. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Jaya Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada ki, Shri Prem Data Nityananda Prabhu ki, Shri Prem Purushottam Sachinandana Gaura Hari ki, Bolo Giriraj Maharaj ki, Shri Lakshmi Nrsimha Bhagavan ki, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan Ju ki, Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Go Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Samaveda Bhaktivinda Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Gora Graganya Gana Gotra Goloruharam Gauranga Gudatama Gopyada Kopa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshi Kavadam Satatam Namami Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachita Jachiha Dileka Kola Kahe Premananda Hemona Gauranga Hridaya Dadiya Bola. Listen, Bhaja Gauranga Kaha Gauranga Laha Gaurangera Namare Bolo. Kaha Gauranga Laha Gaurangera Nama Jai Jana Gauranga Bhaje Se Hoy Amara Prana Re Jai Jana Gauranga Bhaje Se Hoy Amara Prana Re. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Bolo, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. Yashaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya Prema Bidana Padama Pumata Tasmai Jagan Mangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Madgavirapi Gopala Sri Kuryat Kripaya Judi Tadaiva Sambhaya Pidva Rishi Yustat Priya Janaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunathapta Brajabala Bapahima Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I have to tell all of you something a little personal, a couple of things. First of all, it's a little hard to speak in an assembly where you don't know everyone. It's a little intimidating. It's much more intimidating if you have to sit in front of someone you have great regard for, especially Indradyumna Maharaj. And it's also disappointing for me because I was really hoping that I would get some chance to hear some katha from Indradyumna Maharaj. So I have a secret, we're going to follow him to New Brajadam for Radhastami. But I was happy yesterday I got some opportunity to hear something from Maharaj. And I'd just like to reflect a little bit on what Maharaj said yesterday, which really struck me, and I felt it was so important. We want to be followers of Srila Prabhupada. But to be followers of Prabhupada means that we follow the love and not the law, as Srila Prabhupada described in Mauritius in 1976 in one lecture he gave there, that our organization, our movement is love and not law. We're following that. Mm-hmm. And that love means that we should try to understand the heart of Srila Prabhupada. And we do that by his mercy, by his comments, by his instructions, by his words. And Maharaj was sharing something very beautiful with us yesterday, which I like to contemplate on, and how Srila Prabhupada was saying that the entire European continent will become Krishna conscious. And not only that, other times Srila Prabhupada said the whole planet will become Krishna conscious within a few years, something I think, isn't it? And somehow I like to think about that. And I think, how are we going to do that? And I think that if we do that, it means we're going to have a lot of unity and diversity. There's going to have to be an incredible amount of diversity. You're going to have some Hare Krishna ladies, as shocking as this may sound, especially some of the brahmacharis, please excuse me. You'll have some Hare Krishna ladies in bikinis. And you'll have some in burqas. Mm-hmm. We'll have, because otherwise, how is the whole planet going to be Krishna conscious? So we need to learn to see unity and diversity, and that our strength is diversity. Our strength is not uniformity, that everybody has to dress the same and be the same. Our strength is in diversity, and we should celebrate that. And Srila Prabhupada saw that. Intrinsic within this statement that the whole European continent or the whole planet will become Krishna conscious is the understanding of the importance of diversity. And I'm very, very honored to get Maharaj's association. I can tell you, when I see Goswamis like Pundarik Goswami, Srivatsa Goswami, Padmanabha Goswami, and other very famous persons throughout India. Pundarik Goswami is one of the most famous speakers of Krishna Katha throughout India. And I see the humility they present before Maharaj. Although they're great Sanskrit scholars, and maybe Maharaj isn't as great a Sanskrit scholar, and they know so much, and they're coming from Goswami families, they're so appreciative. And why? Because of what Maharaj is doing. Just recently, I was telling Maharaj, and I'm sorry to embarrass you, Maharaj, please forgive me. He's going to curse me or something after all this, I'm afraid. But it's the only way I can get everybody to listen to me a little bit and appreciate me. Otherwise, they're all going to be really angry. Why is he sitting and speaking instead of Gurudev? We want to hear from him. This is nonsense. So it's a really dangerous situation for me, so excuse me. But recently, I saw some comment on Facebook from a very senior disciple, Srila Prabhupada, appreciating Indradyumna Maharaj. That was Rameshwar Prabhu, who devotees used to call the Sankirtan General. He really, really imbibed Srila Prabhupada's spirit of book distribution and preaching. It's his life. And when he saw some of the photos from the Polish yatra that you guys were all doing, it just humbled him to tears. He said, I want to cry. And he said, I want to take the dust from Indradyumna Maharaj's feet, birth after birth. He said, what he's doing is such a wonderful thing. Janishina Bhagavan. So we're so very, very grateful. And if you watch some of the videos of Srila Prabhupada, sometimes, quite often, people would glorify Srila Prabhupada, and then what would Srila Prabhupada say? With great humility, but some truth, but great humility. Prabhupada would say, my disciples, they're doing these things. And I know if I say these things to Maharaj, that he's also going to say that it's all of you who are doing these things. But we see Maharaj in all of you. And I hope that you get some opportunity through his association to imbibe his mood. And I hope that that mood will always live. Long, long after this world is bereft of the association, the physical presence of Indradyumna Maharaj, my prayer is that his spirit will live on in all of you. And we can come and associate with him through all of you, and that these festivals in Poland will continue going on in a greater strength. So thank you, Maharaj. So I was a little confused. What am I going to speak today? Maharaj gave such a drum roll yesterday. We got to try to do something. And I thought, since I heard that the devotees on the tour weren't able to do such a observation of Janmashtami, that maybe I would say a little something in that direction and something in the line of Vrindavan, with your blessing. So I'd like to read you something from the Bhagavatam, not what they put on the board here. I didn't say anything to them. I'm sorry. This is from the 10th canto, if you have phones. I heard that that's now a GBC regulation. All devotees to get initiated, they have to have a cell phone. I don't know. Along with a bead bag. So if you have a cell phone or you have Prabhupada's books, it's Canto 10, Chapter 3, Text 47. 10:3:47. Tatashta sore bhagavat prachoditaha sutam samadhaya sasutika grihat yadha bahirgantam iyeshataryaja yayogamaya janinanda jayaya. I'll just read the translation. Thereafter, exactly when Vasudeva, being inspired by the Supreme Personality of God, he was about to take the newborn child from the delivery room, Yogamaya, the Lord's spiritual energy, took birth as a daughter of the wife of Maharaj Nanda. So Srila Prabhupada commented. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur discusses that Krishna appeared simultaneously as the son of Devaki and as the son of Yashoda, along with the spiritual energy Yogamaya. As the son of Devaki, he first appeared as Vishnu. And because Vasudeva was not in the position of pure affection for Krishna, Vasudeva worshipped his son as Lord Vishnu. Yashoda, however, pleased her son Krishna without understanding his godhead. This is the difference between Krishna as a son of Yashoda and as a son of Devaki. This is explained by Vishwanath Chakravarti on the authority of Harivamsa. Gurave Gurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. So this is a great mystery. I remember some years ago, we have a magazine we published called Sri Krishna Katamrita. Maybe some of you have seen it. And we do research and have translations and things for it. And some years ago, we were in Naimisharanya to do some research on the Bhagavatam. There was no place for us to stay. We were staying in the Gaudiya Math temple. And the devotees were very kind to give us some place. And it so happened, while we were there, one of Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers came. He was the Acharya, and we went to take his darshan. And much to my disappointment and pain in my heart, he chose to say some harsh things about Srila Prabhupada. And I'm going to mention that, but I'm going to patch it up, so don't feel bad. And he was saying, how is it that Srila Prabhupada says that Krishna is the son of Devaki? Because that's what Prabhupada writes in the Krishna book. But I pointed out to him, I said, Maharaj, but in the Bhagavatam 10th canto commentaries in 3rd chapter, text 47, Srila Prabhupada gives this comment, that actually Krishna is the son of Yashoda. And maybe that helped a little bit, I don't know. Sometimes we find ourselves in some situation with someone who may not be so appreciative of our Guru Janas. We can be respectful, deho nata jata jata. We should learn to give respect according to the person's position, but we don't want to hear anything bad about Srila Prabhupada, about our Guru Janas. We offer our pranams and durteki dandavat. We offer obeisances from a distance. We just go away from that place. So the Harivamsa Purana, the 2nd canto, chapter 4, describes Garbha Kale Tvasampurne. Asampurne means without being finished. Ashtame Mahitestriyo Devaki cha Yasoda cha Susavate Simam Tada. That Devaki and Yashoda gave birth at the same time. It was a Asampurna, it was a premature birth during Ashtami Masa, the 8th month of their pregnancy. Harivamsa Purana describes like this. So there's always some controversy. I'd like to talk about something controversial today. Is that okay? Is that all right? Actually, it's a good way to make friends. Right? You talk about something controversial. You let your hair down, and you're open to speak about something controversial in an open way. So here's our controversy today. Who is really Krishna's mother? Is it Devaki or is it Yashoda? And it's a big controversy, and it's a very heartfelt controversy. And it's an old-time controversy. Once, Krishna was playing with the boys on the bank of the Jamuna, and the boys began to tease him, like boys sometimes do. Said, "We know something you don't know. We know something you don't know." And Krishna became very agitated. He said, "What is it? What is it?" "We're not going to tell you. We're not going." Krishna said, "No, what is it? What is it?" And they said, "We know Yashoda is not really your mother." And when the boys said that to Krishna, suddenly tears came to his eyes. And without saying anything, Krishna turned and ran away from the boys. And no one could find Krishna. They were searching for him throughout the entire day. And all the residents of Vrindavan, Mother Yashoda, and everyone was searching for Krishna until finally one Aboriginal lady, they also have Aborigines, and one tribal lady in Vrindavan, came to Yashoda and said, "You're looking for your son? I know where he is." And Mother said, "Take him to me." And so she took Mother Yashoda to the middle of the forest. And there in the middle of the forest was a big tree. And it was a hollow tree. And inside the tree, Krishna was there. And Krishna was just weeping and crying. And it melted the heart of Mother Yashoda. She reached in the tree and she took out her boy and put him on her lap, and she was holding him, and she said, "Gopal, why are you crying? What's wrong?" And Krishna said, "They say you're not my mother." And Mother Yashoda said, "Silly boy, that's not true. You're my boy. You're my son." And Krishna said, "Then why am I black and you're not?" Actually, Rupa Goswami says that Mother Yashoda, sometimes she has a blackish complexion. But Krishna asked him, "Why am I black?" And Mother Yashoda said, "You don't know. You were born at midnight. And that's why you're black." Little Krishna said, "Oh, that makes sense. And when you were a little boy, I was giving you milk from a black cow. And because of that, you became black." Just a little cultural note of interest. Do you know that something like, I think it was 20% of the people in America think that chocolate milk comes from brown-colored cows? Anyway, Krishna, he thought, "Oh, that makes sense." Other people say there's another reason why Krishna's black, because Krishna lives in the eyes of the gopis. And because the gopis have put this black cudgel around their eyes, then Krishna's also become blackish. So Srila Prabhupada, in his purport, he speaks about a difference between Vasudeva and Devaki and the conception of Nanda and Yashoda. And I'd like to speak something about that today, that when Krishna appeared, Vasudeva and Devaki, they fell down on the ground and they began to offer prayers. But Kavi Karnapur in Ananda Vrindavan Champu, he says that when Krishna was born of Yashoda, that Yashoda, she woke up, she was asleep. It was such a gentle birth, I can't imagine. And she woke up and she looked, and there's this beautiful boy who looked like a brilliant emerald. And in the body of that baby who was covered with amniotic fluid, because she came from the womb of Yashoda, she saw her own reflection and she became frightened. And it's a ghost. A witch has come to attack my baby. She became frightened like that. Devaki and Vasudev also became frightened. There's a difference between the Avirbhav and the Janma. Avirbhav means appearance. If all of us are sitting here in the middle of the room and all of a sudden there's a kind of a boom, explosion in the middle of the room in the air, we see this form of Lord Narayan with 4 hands. It's a kind of astonishing thing, isn't it? But when a baby's born and a baby cries, and Kavi Karnapur says that baby Krishna had a very unusual cry, Sachinanda Maharaj was mentioning the other day, that when he was crying, he was making the sound of Omkar. Mm-hmm. But when a baby's born, it's a very, very sweet, intimate thing. So there's a difference between the conception of Mathura and the conception of Vrindavan. Now you may have some doubt about what Srila Prabhupada said, or even Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, but you should know, we have an email magazine also called Sri Krishna Kathamrita Bindu. I just sent out issue 530 yesterday, which is about Radhastami. But our previous issue, 529, is about Janmashtami. And there's an article we put together there with different pramanas from Baladev Vidyabhushan, Rupa Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and different acharyas speaking about how Krishna is actually the son of Yashoda. But it's a confidential thing. And sometimes they speak of Krishna as the son of Devaki, as Srila Prabhupada did. And sometimes they speak of Krishna as a foster child, the foster child of Nanda and Yashoda. A few days ago, I had a very special opportunity for service. I got a letter from Satsvarup Maharaj. And he wrote to me asking if I had any pramanas about this subject so that he could use for Janmashtami. And so I sent him our Bindu magazine. So one of the questions that Maharaj asked me, though, is he said, well, why is it, how do we understand, Prabhupada says this in Bhagavatam, we understand Krishna is the son of Yashoda. But Prabhupada also addresses Krishna as Devaki Nandan, as the son of Devaki. And he speaks of Krishna sometimes as his foster son of Nanda and Yashoda. So I replied to him, I said, Maharaj, I'm not aware of any comment Srila Prabhupada made, why he spoke like that, so I can only give some guess, perhaps an educated guess. But based on my experience with different sadhus and scholars in Gaudiya Vaishnavism who know this principle, it's something they don't speak about a lot. It's something more confidential, something for the devotees. And therefore Srila Prabhupada, he gave Krishna book, which is meant for the whole world. We used to go to rock concerts, and there's like a fog of marijuana smoke, and some poor brahmachari going up to the car. And we give them this book, and we say, see, George Harrison signed it. We used to do that, Mars, I'm quite sure, yes? Everybody was doing like that. And we would give Krishna book to everyone. Prabhupada wanted the whole world to read Krishna books. Sometimes devotees ask a question, is it bona fide to hear about Krishna's pastimes? The answer is emphatically yes. Prabhupada gave Krishna book not only to us, but he wanted everybody on the planet to hear about Krishna's pastimes. But in the Krishna book, Srila Prabhupada speaks of Krishna as a son of Devaki. He doesn't speak about him as a son of Yashoda. And Srila Prabhupada oftentimes spoke of Krishna as a foster son of Nanda and Yashoda. So my suggestion to Satsvarup Maharaj was that, first of all, Srila Prabhupada wanted to honor the confidentiality of this subject matter. And he saw that many people are not qualified to understand the difference between Mathura and Vrindavan conceptions. So he spoke like that. And he said that Krishna was a foster son of Yashoda, which is often spoken in our literatures, because there's a kind of sweetness to it. If someone is a birth son of a woman, then she has some priti, some love. But that priti's hoitaki priti. It has a motivation because that's her boy, her child. But if she has another child which is born by some other woman and she loves that child so much, that's ahoitaki priti. There's no motivation. And that's a very, very special kind of love. So you may have some doubts in spite of all these comments that Krishna actually is the son of Yashoda. I'd like to share with you a few bits of proof. Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 5, text 2 states, Jeta karma majasya vai. Jeta karma is a samskara. The jeta karma samskara is when you cut the umbilical cord from the baby to the mother. And the Bhagavatam very clearly describes that happened between Yashoda and Krishna. And our acharyas cite this as an evidence. Now, unless that umbilical cord was really, really long and it went all the way across the Jamuna to Mathura, it's definitely proof that Krishna is the son of Yashoda. The Brahma-Vaivarta Purana gives 3 verses also describing in the 4th canto, chapter 8, Nadi chedena kartanim datri swarupam nadim cha, that the nurses, they cut the umbilical cord between baby Krishna and Mother Yashoda. But still, there's some controversy about this subject matter. Many years ago, I heard a story from my Guru Maharaj, but in a paradoxical kind of way. It wasn't from my Guru Maharaj. Rather, it was from one sadhu in Orissa who had heard from my Guru Maharaj a story which comes from a section of the Skanda Purana called the Prabhas Kanda. And he related this story that he heard from my Guru Maharaj to me, and I'd like to share that with you today. That we know there's a difference between Vasudeva and Devaki, who's really Krishna's mother. Many, many things can be said about that. When Uddhava went to Vrindavan, he told Nanda and Yashoda, don't cry. It's okay. Actually, Krishna's not your son. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those comments didn't go over very well with Nanda and Yashoda. He told them, Yuvayoreva naivayam atmajo bhagavan hari savesham atmajo hyatma pitta mata sa ishvara. He's not your son. He's actually Ishvara. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Nanda Maharaj, he said, what? Are you a boka? Some idiot? What are you saying? He said, I thought you were a wise person. You're Brihaspati Sishya, you're a disciple of Brihaspati. But now I see you're just like a boy. Uddhava, you don't really know anything. I know about Narayan. We worship Narayan in our house. We have a nice pujari who comes every day. His name's Madhavananda. We worship the deity of Narayan in our house. Narayan is Mulakarna. He's the original cause of Purush and Prakriti, all the living entities in the material nature. Narayan is Anadi, beginningless. Bhagavan is Sarveshvara. He's the supreme controller. But our Gopal, he's just a young boy. How can you say he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Narayan has all the symptoms of Bhagavan. I know those symptoms, but we don't find any of those symptoms in our Gopal. Krishna is a simple milk-fed child. He cries if he can't have the breasts of Mother Yashoda. I don't mean to offend any of the brahmacharis here, but Krishna's not a brahmachari. Krishna's a mamachari. He's very, very attached to his mother. And Nanda Maharaj told Uddhava, you're just a boy. What kind of thing are you trying to tell us? Krishna is Bhagavan. Krishna cries if he can't have the breast of Yashoda. Narayan is pure. Narayan is peaceful. Narayan is apapa vida. He doesn't have any sin. But my Krishna, he's a very fickle boy. He's very greedy. He gets angry. Where are the symptoms of Narayan and our Krishna? Narayan's free from all contamination. He's Suddha Sattva Gunamoy. But my Krishna, he's a thief. He steals things. My Krishna, he's a liar. He's an abhimani. He has a great attitude about things. Narayan is the shelter of the whole world. But my Krishna, he's dependent on us. Where is the symptom of Narayan in my Krishna? Narayan is such a sankalpa. Everything he says is true. But my Krishna, he's very expert in telling lies. He says one thing, but it means another thing. It seems like he's telling us the truth, but he's not. Narayan is aptakam. He's self-satisfied. But my Gopal, he becomes very hungry. He starts crying when he's hungry and thirsty. I've seen my Gopal carrying my wooden shoes on his head. Huh? Where is the similarity with Narayan and our Gopal? Huh? If Krishna is Bhagavan, then how can he make a mistake? Huh? There are different symptoms Rupa Goswami describes of Bhagavan, but there's 18 faults in a conditioned soul. Sometimes we give a discussion about this. It's a lengthy thing. How the faults of Krishna. 16 of those faults, there's 18 faults in a conditioned soul, which are not found in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's what makes him Bhagavan. But paradoxically, Krishna has 16 of those faults, and those faults are what make him superior to God. Mm-hmm. The only two that he doesn't have are, what is it? Yeah, I'm trying to remember the Sanskrit. You remember? You remember Krishna Konya there? Urdhva? Olba? Olba Rasa, yeah. Olba Rasa. He means some very bad behavior, very vairasic kind of behavior. And Kama Olbana. Kama Olbana means violent kind of lust. Krishna doesn't have those qualities. But Krishna, he tells lies. Krishna makes mistakes. Krishna becomes bewildered. Once Krishna was going to milk the cows. Right? He's a cowherd boy. And he came out of the place, and this woman was across the road, and she did some violence to him. This woman's name was Radharani. And the violence that she did was just by her form, just by standing there. And Krishna was looking at Radharani, and Krishna went to milk the cow. And instead of going to a cow, he went to a bull. And he started milking the bull. So Krishna becomes confused sometimes. It happens. But that confusion, our acharyas have described, are what makes him superior to Bhagavan. Because all of those so-called faults are actually very sweet qualities which indicate his subordination to the devotees. So Uddhava told Nanda and Yashoda that your son's not Bhagavan, he's God. And it didn't go over very good. But when Krishna came before Vasudeva and Devaki after killing Kamsa, what did Vasudeva and Devaki do? What did they say? The 85th chapter, the 10th canto, describes their words. Yuvam nana sato sakshat pradana purusheshvaro. They said, actually, you're not our son. You're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is a Mathura conception. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Krishna Samhita, he says that Vrindavan is Madhurya Moyi. It's a place of sweetness. Aradyo Bhagavan Braje Satana Yastadama Vrindavanam. Vrindavan is the sweetest place. And when the conception of Gyan, the conception of the Aishvarya Moyi Rup, the opulence of the Supreme Personality of God, when that opulent conception enters into Vrindavan, then Krishna leaves and he goes to Mathura, which is a place of opulent conception. And then when some conception enters about Varnashram Dharma, then Krishna leaves Mathura and he goes to Dwarka, which is a conception influenced heavily by Varnashram Dharma. So there's a difference between the conception of Devaki and Yashoda, and we should understand that. Jiva Goswami in Gopal Champu, he says that, he gives a very elaborate description of how Vasudeva took baby Vasudeva across the Jamuna River to Gokul, and how Mother Yashoda had given birth to twins, Yogamaya, and Nandananda and Swayamrup Govinda Krishna, the original Krishna. But by the potency of Yogamaya, Vasudeva couldn't see Nandanandan Krishna. He only saw the little girl. And he placed Vasudeva Krishna down on the bed next to Yashoda. And that Vasudeva Krishna entered into the body of Nandanandan Krishna, some say for 16 full years, until Akrura came to take Krishna away from Vrindavan. And he only saw the little girl. And so Vasudeva left Vasudeva, and he took the little girl, Yogamaya, back to Mathura, and Kamsa got a big surprise. And that's another story we know. So later, in Kurukshetra, Jiva Goswami describes that there was a meeting with Krishna again and Nanda and Yashoda. And Krishna, when he went to meet with them, he took Balaram along with him. And he saw Nanda Maharaj, and Krishna became very emotional, and he ran to Nanda Baba and fell at his father's feet, and Nanda Maharaj was embracing him and crying. And Krishna said to Baba, where's Mata? Where's mother? And Nanda Maharaj was so emotional he couldn't say anything. He just pointed in a direction, and there was one cart that was covered. And Krishna went running there with Balaram. And Mother Yashoda was there to greet Krishna. Mother Yashoda began to cry and cry, and holding her Gopal against her breast. And at that time, Devaki came there. Now, I think ladies may understand this better than the men. Ladies are very expert in what's called parokshavad. They say one thing, but they mean another thing. And it becomes very confusing for us poor men, because she said, it's just fine. She said, I can go with the boys on our anniversary day and go swimming. She said, go right ahead. That's what she said. But what she really meant was, you're a jerk. And if you do that, I'm not going to be here when you get back. Us poor men, we're just simple. We don't understand all these complicated things. But ladies, they have this way, very expert in their speech. And Devaki, she came before Yashoda, and she started this whole speech. Yashoda, I just want to let you know, we appreciate so much that even though Krishna wasn't really your son, you were so kind to take care of him. And we just want to offer our thanks to you. Now, us men will hear that she's just saying that she's offering some thanks, some gratitude to Yashoda. But ladies can understand there's something, there's a barb there. What she's really trying to say is Krishna's not your son. He's really our son. Through this, what's called parokshavad. Parokshavad rishaya parokshamama chapriyam. Krishna says in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam that the rishis, they speak in parokshavad. Sometimes we see Indradyumna Maharaj is saying he's calling someone pandit. But parokshavad means that he's really saying this person's an idiot. He's a boka. We saw that yesterday. That's parokshavad. And sadhus, they do like that sometimes. So Devaki, but she was speaking like this to Yashoda in such a cutting kind of way, but Yashoda defeated Devaki. And how did she defeat Devaki? She didn't say a word. Actually, Yashoda couldn't hear anything that she said. She was just looking at the face of her Gopal and crying in ecstasy. And her ecstasy defeated the mood of Devaki. So I'd like to take you on a little journey today. This story from the Prabhaskanda that my Guru Maharaj spoke. We know that Devaki had 6 children in her womb prior to Sankarshan Balaram appearing in the womb and preparing the womb for the appearance of Krishna. And we know that those children, those babies, were all mercilessly murdered right in front of her by Kamsa. I can't imagine how Devaki must be feeling to be locked up in a prison and then to have your babies brutally killed by your own brother in front of you, one after another. So Devaki was crying and crying. And she was praying to the demigods. That's a little startling. Sometimes great Vaishnavas, they pray to the demigods. And the gopis, they worship Gopishwar Mahadev, they worship Surya Dev, who's actually a little tricky fellow. It's not really Surya Dev, but that's another story. Sometimes they worship Goddess Katyayani. And there's some rasa there because they're a kind of go-between between them and Krishna. So Devaki began offering prayers to the demigods, and she prayed that, please, can I just have one son? Please, my evil brother has killed all my babies. Can I just have one baby? And if you give me a child, then I promise that I'll do some yajna for the pleasure of the demigods. She prayed like that. Meanwhile, in Amaravati, which is the abode of Lord Indra, Narad Muni one day happened to go there, and he found that Indra was looking really depressed. And Narad Muni, he said, hey, Devaraj, king of the Devas, why are you looking so sad for? And Indra said, I really blew it. I kind of sort of like took like an atom bomb and tried to drop it on Vrindavan and killed everybody. Actually, Jiva Goswami, in the form of the Samvardhaka clouds, in the Govardhan Puja time, Jiva Goswami says such a startling thing in Gopal Champu. He says that when Indra sent those clouds to Vrindavan, it was so brutal what he said. He told them, I want you to kill every animal, every tree, every plant, every child, every woman, every person. Kill everyone in Vrindavan except one person. Don't kill Nanda Maharaj. Kill everyone else first, and then kill Nanda Maharaj after, because I want him to see everyone die. Such a horrible attitude. And then we know he had an attitude adjustment when Krishna kind of lifted up Govardhan Hill for 7 days, and he realized, oh, I made a big mistake. And he came. It happens sometimes. And Krishna very beautifully told him, it's all right. Indri vyakalam loka mridayanti yuge yuge. Whenever I come to protect you. And you're a manager. A manager sometimes makes mistakes. Right? Indra's a big manager. But he sometimes makes a big, big mistake. He kind of sort of tried to drop an atom bomb on Vrindavan. It's a big mistake. But Krishna forgave him. And Narad Muni said, so why are you unhappy? Krishna forgave you. And it said, yeah, he forgave me, but because of my stupidity, I didn't get to see the amazing Bala Leela of Krishna and the amazing form, that Bala Gopal Roop, that amazing, beautiful form of that little boy, Krishna. And Narad Muni said, would you like to see that? And Indra said, yes. Narad Muni said, we'll make some arrangement. You don't worry. Huh? So then we know so many things happen. Krishna came to Mathura and he beat the hell out of Kamsa. Excuse my language. He was so angry with Kamsa. He killed Kamsa and he freed Vasudeva and Devaki. And then Vasudeva and Devaki later with Krishna, they went to Dwarka. And it was in Dwarka one day that Narad Muni showed up and he came before Devaki. Devaki was very happy to see him. Oh, Sadhuji, please accept my obeisances. What can we offer to you? And Narad Muni then told Devaki, he said, Devaki, I'm very disappointed with you. And for such a great sadhu rishi like Narad Muni to speak that to this Kshatriya lady, Devaki, it's like putting a knife in her heart because she lives for the pleasure of the saints. And Devaki became very, why? What did I do? And Narad Muni said, I thought you were born in a very elevated Kshatriya family, but I'm so disappointed. You tell lies. And Devaki said, what lie have I spoken? Narad Muni said, you made a promise. You promised the demigods. I know a lot of things. I'm Trikalagya. I know everything. You thought I wasn't there. But I know you made a promise to the demigods that if you could get a son, you'd offer puja to them. And you got a son. You didn't get just any son. You got Krishna, the most wonderful son in the world. And you didn't fulfill your promise. And Devaki said, oh, I'm so sorry. He said, I'm just a woman. I don't know about all these puja things and sacrifices. What should I do, Narad Muni? So Narad Muni told her, he said, well, there's this book, and there's all these rituals and ceremonies, and you should call for the Sapta Rishis. We should go to this place called Prabhas, which is a sacred place, which is where Krishna and the Yadu dynasty left this world. We should go to Prabhas. You should do some yajna there. You should get the Sapta Rishis personally to do the yajna. And Krishna, he should be the hotri. He should be pouring the ghee in the fire. And they should all chant mantras and like that. And very important part of the ceremony, you should invite everyone all over the world and you should give everyone Samshas Prasadam. Devaki said, that's very good. At that time, Padmavati was there. Padmavati is a little crazy woman. She's the senile, little crazy mother, so-called mother of Kamsa. That's a long story about Kamsa, another story in the Padma Purana. And Padmavati, she said, Narad Muni, we're just ladies. We stay at home. We don't have an email account. How are we supposed to invite everybody all over the world? Can you help us out? You're the famous spaceman. You go all over the place. Can you invite everybody for us? And Narad Muni said, sure, I'll be very happy to do that. And then Padmavati said, but one thing. Listen to me, Narada. One thing. Don't invite those people from Vrindavan. And Narad Muni said, well, why not? They love Krishna. And Padmavati said, because they're always trying to say that Krishna is the son of Yashoda, and it's not true. Krishna is the son of Devaki. And those Brijbasis are so bad. Do you know? They forced Krishna to do hard work. They were so brutal. They made him go and herd the cows. They wouldn't even give him shoes to wear. And there's so many thorns on the ground. Once Mother Yashoda told Krishna, Krishna, you should wear shoes. And Krishna said, Mom, we're Gwalas. We're cowherd people. How can I have something the cows don't have? If you give shoes for all the cows, for all four of their feet, for all the quadrillions and quadrillions of cows that we have, then I'll also wear shoes. It wasn't very practical. Krishna doesn't wear shoes in Vrindavan. When we see Lord Narayan in pictures, he's floating off the ground. He doesn't touch the ground. But Krishna touches the ground. He touches Vrindavan because he loves Vrindavan. And he puts his signature footprints everywhere in Vrindavan. But Padmavati's a little crazy. They were so cruel to him. They made him work hard. They didn't give him any shoes. The hot sun was there. There was no umbrella for him. Krishna also told Mother Yashoda, I'm not going to take an umbrella unless you get an umbrella for each and every one of the cows. The clouds, they come and do that service. They provide some umbrella in Vrindavan for Krishna. But Padmavati was criticizing and complaining. Those Brijbasis are so bad. They make him work so hard. And you know, it's even worse than that. They don't feed him properly. And the poor boy, he gets hungry. And so he goes to take some butter because he can't have anything else. He steals a little. And what do? They tie him up with ropes. They abuse him. They threaten him with a stick. It's very, very bad. Those Brijbasis are very bad. And they try to say that Yashoda is the mother of Krishna. It's not true. So don't go to Vrindavan. Narad Muni said, okay, I got it. So he left. And where was the first place that Narad Muni went to? Vrindavan. Because Narad Muni is a troublemaker. But he didn't say anything. He just went to Vrindavan. And as soon as Nanda and Yashoda saw Narad Muni, immediately they remembered Krishna. Because that's the nature of a sadhu. When someone sees a great Vaishnava, immediately they remember Krishna. And so they asked Narad Muni, have you seen my boy, my Gopal? And Narad Muni said, you didn't hear? You didn't hear the news? Mother Yashoda said, what news? Oh, there's a big yajna going on in Prabhas. Krishna's doing the yajna. And then Narad Muni said, oh, I guess you weren't invited. And Mother Yashoda became very sad. My Gopal is doing a yajna, and they're not inviting us. And Nanda Maharaj said, woman, we're Gwalas. We're family. We don't have to have an invitation. We'll just go. Right? And word very quickly spread throughout Vrindavan that Nanda and Yashoda were going to Prabhas to see Krishna. And very quickly, when Upananda and Sunanda and all the brothers of Nanda Maharaj and all the elderly gopis, they heard about it. We're going also. And so they packed their things as well. And the young gopis, when they heard, they said, we can't stay here alone. Somebody has to protect us. We're also going. And the cowherd boys went. And the cows, they followed along. And the deer in the forest and the birds in the forest, they also went along because everyone wanted to see Krishna. The fish in the Jamuna, when they heard the news, they said, we're also swimming to the ocean. We want to see Krishna at Prabhas. So meanwhile, Narad Muni, he went to Amaravati. And he told Indra, you wanted to see Krishna's Bala Leela? Yes. Come with me to Prabhas. And there, Narad Muni returned to Padmavati and Devaki, and they asked him, so, did you invite everybody? Narad Muni said, yes, long list. I invited everybody on the list, got everybody. And then Padmavati said, you didn't invite those Brijbasis, did you? I told you. And Narad Muni said, oh God, I knew you said something. I'm so sorry, I forgot. And Padmavati was very annoyed, but you can't argue with a great sadhu like Narad Muni. So she said, anyway, Devaki, you come with me. And the two of them became like chokidars, guards. And they went to the entrance to that yagya, and they stood there like yamadutas to prevent the Brijbasis from entering. And so Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj and all the Brijbasis, they arrived, and Devaki and Padmavati were standing there with arms folded. They said, "Hep! Prabesh Nisheth, entrance forbidden. You can't come in." Sometimes devotees ask me if I speak Oriya. A little bit. We read a little Oriya. It's ironic because we have a project called the Gaudiya Oriya Research Association, which I'm the director of. I read Bengali, a little Oriya. But I only know a few words in Oriya. One of the things I know how to say is Bideshi Prabesh Nisheth. You understand that? It's the same in Hindi. You don't know Hindi? Huh? It means foreigners not allowed inside. That's what we hear quite often in Jagannath Puri. Anyway, so they told him, I should have asked you. Prabesh Nisheth. You're not allowed inside. And Mother Yashoda, they said, but my boy is there, my Gopal. And Padmavati said, it's not true. He's not your son. Krishna is the son of Devaki. You can't tell that to Mother Yashoda. No, he's my boy, he's my Gopal. It's not true. And so there is some quarrel. Sometimes even amongst devotees we have some quarrel. Even amongst Mother Yashoda and Devaki there's some disagreement. So they went to Narad Muni. They said, you're a senior person. You tell us, who is really Krishna's mother? Narad Muni's in big trouble now. Because if he says that Devaki is the mother, it's going to break the heart of Yashoda. And Yashoda might even die. And Narad Muni, it's terrible. And on the other hand, if he says that Yashoda is the mother, then Devaki is going to be heartbroken. The Narad Muni is very clever. He said, well, it's really kind of hard to say who's really the mother. But great learned persons have ascertained, they've said that we can tell who the mother is of a child. When the mother calls for the child will go to the mother. Padmavati said, yes, very good. Devaki, you call for Krishna. So Devaki, she started calling for Krishna. Krishna, Krishna. But the sages were offering ghee in the fire and chanting mantras. Om Sahasra Sirsa Purushaha Sahasraksha Sahasrapat Sabhumin Vishvato Vritya Atyatista Dasangulam Swaha Idam Vishnave Hidannamama. And they were chanting really loud. And Krishna couldn't hear. And Devaki's calling and calling, Krishna, Krishna. Krishna didn't come. So finally she turned to Yashoda. She said, okay, Didi, you go. You call. And then Mother Yashoda began to call for Gopal. Kanu, Kanu. Krishna was offering ghee in the fire and suddenly stopped. He said, what's that sound? I hear something. And somebody said, oh, there's some people, some village people who just came from some Vrindavan. Ma? And Krishna dropped that shroop, that spoon, in the fire. And he jumped up. And something happened. His opulent Aishvarjamoyi Roop form, his opulent form, his Dwarkadish, suddenly disappeared. And he became little naked Bala Gopal. Smaller than him. Bathed, dressed only in dust. Little naked boy. And he started running. Ma, Ma. And Mother Yashoda is calling out, Gopal, Kanu. And Krishna came and he leaped into the arms of Mother Yashoda. And perhaps this is where we get our tradition of Abhishek. Because at that time, Mother Yashoda began to do an Abhishek on Gopal. When we do Abhishek traditionally in India, they'll take water from the Triveni, 3 rivers, the Ganga, the Jamuna, and the Sarasvati, to offer to Krishna on Janmashtami night. So Mother Yashoda was doing like that with the water of the Ganga, the Jamuna, and the Sarasvati. Her tears were pouring down her face. And because she had black kajal around her eyes, the water from her tears was mixing with that black kajal and it became black like the water of the Jamuna. and it was giving Krishna a bath from her tears. And at the same time, the milk was pouring forth from her breasts, like the white milk, like the white water of the Ganga. And that was giving Krishna a bath. And at the same time, the Saraswati River is a hidden river. You can't see it. Mother Yashoda was bathing Krishna in the oil of her love from her heart. She was giving Krishna a bath in this way. And it was at that time that Narad Muni was present there with Indra. He turned to Indra and he said, so, are you happy now? Now you can see Krishna's Gopal Lila. You can see his beautiful form. So for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we consider that Krishna is really the son of Yashoda. But we don't always speak about it in public before everyone because it's a little confidential thing. And what's confidential is a Vrindavan conception. We read a beautiful explanation of this in Rupa Goswami's Lalita Madhav. And he speaks about when Krishna went to rescue Rukmini. It was a very dramatic scene. Rukmini's brother, Rukmi, showed up with huge, huge armies. And Krishna began to fight with all of them. It's an interesting question. Srila Prabhupada was speaking about this pastime once. And he said, so who drove the chariot? And Prabhupada said, Rukmini. Krishna wasn't driving Rukmini. She took up the reins because she's a Kshatriya girl. She knows how to do that. She's tough. So Krishna began to fight with those great warriors. It was a very dramatic moment. But just before he began to fight, Krishna took his conch shell, Panchajanya, to blow the conch shell to announce that he's about to enter into the fight. But something happened when he picked up that conch shell and put it to his lips. And Rupa Goswami describes, in the midst of those great armies, it's a very dramatic fighting scene. Rupa Goswami says, Kara yugalena grihitam nidaya vadambuje damankambum brajaragni stanapana smarna stimito harir jayati. That at that time, when Krishna picked up that conch shell and put it to his lips, he became stunned in ecstasy. It's a little bit of a strange thing to happen when you're getting ready to fight with all these warriors. He became stunned in ecstasy because when he put that conch shell to his mouth, he remembered the breast of Mother Yashoda. Smarna stimito harir jayati. All glories, jayati, to that Lord Hari, who's a mamachari, who's so attached to his mother that he remembers her breasts in the middle of those armies. This is Krishna, and this is a Vrindavan conception. And Rupa Goswami describes in his Radha Krishna Ganesh Deepika that actually the names Devaki and Vasudeva are also names for Yashoda and Nanda. And so sometimes when we see that Krishna is described as Devaki Nandan, or Vasudev Nandan, it actually refers to Nanda and Yashoda. And I'm not going to go so much in that direction. But I want to stop there. Or I could tell you one other story if you'd like. But I don't know. Mars, what should we do? We should tell another story that illustrates the difference between the Mathura conception and the Vrindavan conception. Because I'm really feeling something of Vrindavan, because Maharaj is a great Brijbasi. And he's been speaking about Vrindavan and thinking about Vrindavan. And it seemed like to some people that he was in Poland. But if you think like that, you're mistaken. Right? He's in Vrindavan. And he's bringing Vrindavan with him to Poland in the same way Srila Prabhupada brought Vrindavan to the West. And the devotees are always living in Vrindavan. I know all of you also, you're very attached to Vrindavan. And all the devotees staying here too at the farm, you're living in Vrindavan. You have the Sringade, but the devotees here, I see they're very attached to Radha Krishna and Giri Raj and living a Vrindavan life. So we should understand the difference in the conceptions. And we don't disturb the conception of Vasudeva and Devaki, but we want the conception of Nanda and Yashoda. So the Bhagavatam describes that on one occasion, Balaram and the boys, they came before Yashoda with a complaint. They said that Krishna has been eating mati. He's been eating dirt. And Mother Yashoda was very, very disturbed. For those of you who have small children, if you see the child with a spoon eating dirt from the ground, really freaks out the mother. Who knows what kind of germs it is? My baby's going to die, or who knows? And so Mother Yashoda was very disturbed. And Gopal, have you been eating dirt? And Krishna kind of put his hand in front of his mouth and turned his head a little bit and he said, no. And Mother Yashoda said, open your mouth, let me see inside. Right? And little Krishna opened his little mouth. And what did Mother Yashoda see inside? She saw the Virat Roop, right? We know the story. Right? And Mother Yashoda became very astonished. She saw all the universes, all the demigods, everyone in the whole universe, and she saw herself in Vrindavan looking in the mouth of Gopal. She saw everything there. What was the reaction of Mother Yashoda? She became frightened. There's a Brijbasi song describing she became frightened, and she thought, it's a bhoot, it's a ghost. A ghost has attacked my Gopal. She can't understand this Virat Roop business. And so she thought, what am I going to do? A ghost has attacked my Gopal? That day happened to be all the Nanda Maharaj and Balaram. They had gone along with Rohini and others to the house of Upananda, Nanda Maharaj's older brother. And so all the senior persons were gone. All the Brahmins were gone that day too. They were doing some yajna or something there. And Mother Yashoda was there along with some of the young children. But Mother Yashoda, she's a babushka, for those of you who speak Russian. She's an old lady. And those babushkas, they know some stuff. And she knows her ways. Just like the village ladies in India and Vrindavan, they know many things. So she knew that there's a remedy for ghosts. And that's if you take gobar and you smear it. Come here a second. Can you come here? Come. So Mother Yashoda, can you stand up? Mother Yashoda, she went to the Goshala and she filled up a big bucket full of gobar, cow dung. And she took the cow dung and she started smearing it all over Krishna's face and hands. Maybe we could do a drama. And you could do like that? You could play that? Is that a good idea? You could play Krishna and we'll smear cow dung all over you. What does everybody else think? Is it a good idea? Raise your hand. Everybody likes the idea. So you can sit down. So Krishna was standing there with gobar all over him, and he thought to himself, when I show my Virat Rupa later to Arjuna, he offers prayers. Everywhere I show my Virat Rup, they offer prayers. But in Vrindavan, when I show my Virat Rup, they just smear cow poop all over me. So Krishna decided, from now on, I'm not going to show my Virat Rup in Vrindavan anymore. So there's some difference between the conception of Mathura and Vrindavan. So I hope you do this drama in time with him. You can send us some pictures or something we'd like to see. So we'll go ahead and stop there. This is my humble offering to Indra Maharaj. I'm sorry, please forgive me, Maharaj, speaking in front of you, all the devotees. I feel very embarrassed and ridiculous. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samabheda Bhakta Binda ki, Gopremanandi, Vancha Kalpadrubhascha, Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo. That's Parokshava. Maharaj, do you want to add anything? Does anybody have any comments or questions or anything?
Yes.
Otherwise, I heard one thing about the devotees on the Polish tour. I have to honestly tell you, I'm a little nervous. Someone told me that if you give classes to them, it's a little dangerous. That they can sometimes become violent when they get hungry. So I'm a little nervous that it's breakfast time. And if we speak too long, then I may get attacked or something. Does that happen sometimes, Maharaj? But Babuji has some comment or something, just quickly.
About this, you were talking yesterday also about the law and the love.
Uh-huh.
And I remember reading in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 4th canto, Prabhupada says that when we worship the deities, we're always worshipping Lakshmi Narayan.
Uh-huh.
And we worship them in the mood of Lakshmi Narayan. Even internally, we are cultivating, following the mood of somebody in Vrindavan. So maybe, how does the love and the law cooperate? Or because it seems that it's both combined, that we are in Aishwarya, at least externally, and internally we should be in the mood of Vrindavan.
Very good, thank you. I mean, you explained it very nicely. One thing is externally, another thing is internally. We should show some opulence. Srila Prabhupada said that Radha Krishna don't accept our worship, but Lakshmi Narayan do. And we should dress them in that way. And they do that all over the world, except in Goloka Dham, Germany. And I was requested in Durjamna Maharaj yesterday by one of the residents there to appeal to you, Maharaj, that you should please visit Goloka Dham, Germany. In Goloka Dham, Germany, they have a very, very special treasure. It's the first Radha Krishna deities ever installed in the West, before Radha Landanishwar. These small Radha Krishna deities were installed by Srila Prabhupada, and they were put somewhere in Germany, small deities. And Srila Prabhupada trained a very special disciple to worship those deities. Her name was Jamuna. And so those deities are there today in Goloka Dham. And they're just waiting for Indradyumna Maharaj and all the devotees to come so they can see him. You should visit sometime, Maharaj. It's a very wonderful community. And it's also surrounded by so many wonderful forests. You can go for long japa walks and like that. So, what was his question? Oh, the point about opulence and sweetness. So, we should understand that this sweet type of worship, which they do in Goloka Dham, is not for the general public. And Srila Prabhupada said that we worship the Radha Krishna, we dress him like Lakshmi Narayan. We do it in an opulent way. But internally, we think in a very sweet way. In a similar way, we have to have our rules and regulations. And Srila Prabhupada in Mauritius, he said that we want to follow love, not law. And he said, by law, you can't change the heart of someone. And if everything is just going according to law, what happens? What did he say? Do you remember?
Well, everything will be superficial and false.
Everything, he said two things. It'll become superficial and false if we just follow all the rules and regulations and that. But then at the same time, we have so many rules and regulations in the altar, and it's important. At the same time, we want to have Krishna consciousness spread all over the world. Boy George is a devotee. George Harrison is a devotee. I'll tell you a little secret. I really don't think they're following four regulated principles. George Harrison definitely wasn't. But he's a great devotee, and we appreciate him. And there's going to be so many people who don't shave their heads and wear dhotis and whatever, because we want the whole world to be Krishna conscious. That was Srila Prabhupada's prediction. So we have to be very, very broad-minded for that, and very, very encouraging. But at the same time, simultaneously, we can't water down our worship of the Lord, but our worship, our rules are following the law, the love. Our law follows the love. It's very easy to establish rules when someone that you love tells you something. Then you can do that. But if someone comes with the rules first and maybe love later on, that's very difficult for us. We follow so many rules in our worship of the deities, of cleanliness and punctuality and rituals and things. And they're important at that, but they're manifestations of the devotee's love for the deity. And we want to, out of love, we want to maintain those rules. But at the same time, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes in Krishna Sanhita in the introduction, he says an interesting thing there. Paradoxically, he says that sectarianism is a natural byproduct of the absolute truth. Wow, wrap your head around that. When you have the absolute truth, a natural byproduct is sectarianism. And he explains that in a very beautiful way, which I like to meditate on because I think it has a lot of relevance for Srila Prabhupada's mission. And when we hear statements like what Maharaj was saying yesterday, that Prabhupada wanted to see the whole European continent Krishna conscious, the whole planet Krishna conscious. How in the world are we going to do that? And meanwhile, in our own society, we can't agree about so many things. And there's controversies about Varnashram and about liberality and conservative devotees and liberal devotees. Well, Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives a very wonderful way to reconcile all of that. He says that the absolute truth is manifested by the devotees. Bhakti stu bhagavad bhakti sangena parijayate. The Brihanardiya Purana says that bhakti comes from the devotees. But when the great Acharya comes, he gives something for a particular time and place, which Bhaktivinoda says is tatkalika. He says there's tatkalika and sarvakalika vichar. Two considerations the Acharya has. He teaches something according to time and place. And I'll give you an interesting example. I think I talked to someone yesterday from Gujarat. And we have a few devotees here from India. I live in India. Prabhuji lives in India. When I go to America, sometimes they say you should call all the Matajis Prabhu. Can you do that? I have a really hard time with that. I'm sorry, because it's just not what you do in Bengali and Oriya and Hindi. It's like calling a lady sir. Excuse me, mister. It'd be like saying like that. But Srila Prabhupada called Jamuna Prabhu. He called Malati Prabhu. And not only that, he told the devotees you should call all the devotees Prabhu. He encouraged that. But when Srila Prabhupada was in Gujarat, when Srila Prabhupada was in other places in India, I don't think he called any of the ladies Prabhu. And Bhaktivinoda explains this. He says that the Acharya goes to certain places and he speaks a certain thing at a certain time. And then what happens is the residents of that place, they become really attached to the specific instructions they got. And they should become attached. That's their life and soul. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chiteti Koreya Aikya. We want to take the instructions from lotus mouth of Gurudev and make them one in their heart. They become attached to those instructions, but then a problem happens. The neophytes in that community, when they see a different community, and that community calls the ladies Prabhu, or they don't call the ladies Prabhu, and we call them Prabhu here, and then we become really disturbed about it. They say, no, Prabhupada said, you should call the ladies Prabhu. Why don't you call the ladies Prabhu? I'm sorry, it's just not part of my language. So Bhaktivinoda says that's the nature of neophyte devotees. We want to have unity in diversity. And as we were mentioning in the beginning, that's our strength, not our weakness. Our strength is that we have, as I mentioned yesterday in class, I have a Prabhupada disciple friend who was writing on Facebook that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent Mr. Trump. He said like that. And that's our strength. I'm not really into that person, but that's another thing. But some people like him. And some people like Mr. Putin. Some people like Mrs. Zelensky. And that's not our weakness. We don't need to come together and argue that this one is good or this one is bad. Rather, it's good we have people in so many different camps. Krishna consciousness is spread all over the world. So then how can we cooperate and unite together? We unite together in the sense of unity in Krishna consciousness. We love devotees. We love anyone who's chanting the holy name. They may be dressed a little strange like Boy George or something, but we love them. They're so wonderful and so exalted. They're chanting the holy name. And if we don't cultivate this kind of mentality, dear devotees, how are we going to accomplish Srila Prabhupada's prediction? Which Maharaj said, yes, we should be very strict with ourselves, but we should be very liberal with others. Is that helpful, Prabhuji? You know all those things already. Thank you. Okay, is it okay? Should we stop there before I get attacked by some hungry devotee? Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Srila Indradumna Maharaj ki, Shri Lakshmi Nrsimha Bhagavan ki, Gaur Premanandi, Vamcha Kalpadurubhischa, Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Nama, Ananda Koti Vaishnav Brinda ki Jai. Mahaprasad ki. Especially on Dwadasi, it's a really dangerous day.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
This is pieces, this is one for Maharaj.
Say this again. This is for everybody?
This is tiny pieces of,
Okay, so I have a little suggestion.